I'm Marie Benard, host of Synchronicity, Friday mornings at 9. Join me as we explore topics like health and wellness, prosperity, inner peace, the law of attraction, and more. Tap into good vibrations to start your weekend feeling uplifted and optimistic. Synchronicity, talk radio for your mind, body, and soul. Fridays from 9 to 10 a.m. on CITR 101.9 FM, Vancouver. Welcome to Synchronicity, talk radio for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Marie. Welcome to the show. Happy Friday. We have today author of Conversations with God, Neale Donald Walsch. He is just in the process of releasing a new book, When Everything Changes, Change Everything, in a Time of Turmoil, A Pathway to Peace. So we're going to talk about that and also take your calls. If you want to get on the air and speak with Neale, the number to call is 604-822-2487. That's 604-UBC-CITR. And if you're listening online, you can also email the show at spiritualshow@gmail.com. So without any further ado, here is Neale Donald Walsch. Hello, Neale.
Hi, good morning. How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Well, I'm just doing fabulously well. Thank you, Marie.
Wonderful. Well, I have a whole lot of questions to ask you and only an hour to do it, so I really want to jump in. But first of all, you have this new book that's coming out. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, yes, I can. Thank you for asking. I'm seeing that the world is going through a period of enormous change right now at every level. Globally, we're seeing geopolitical changes, obviously economic and financial changes, and social changes as well, changes in how we're presenting ourselves to ourselves as members of the human family. For instance, just to use one example, gay marriage, and there are many other examples as well across the social spectrum, where humanity is presenting itself to humanity in a way that's entirely different from the way we told our cultural story even a few years ago. These global changes that really cut across a swath of all of humanity are demonstrating themselves and manifesting themselves at smaller levels, in smaller ways, in our individual lives. That is, life is changing in our own homes. People are, in fact, in some cases, losing their homes, regrettably, because of the global financial crisis. People are losing their jobs because of the global financial economic turndown. People are even, regretfully, losing their relationships in many cases because of the extraordinary stress and strain that these other conditions and circumstances are placing on daily life. And so what we're seeing is that change is the experience through which many people are now moving, and not a few people. I stand up in front of my audiences these days, and I ask my audience members, how many of you have experienced a major change? We're not talking about a small one here, but a fairly significant change in your life in the past 36 months or less. And almost 85% of the hands go up. And this is common in every audience before I speak these days. And I was beginning to notice that in the last year or so, and I thought, you know what? I need to find a way to take the messages of the Conversations with God books and bring them down to earth, make them practical on a day-to-day 9-to-5 basis in people's lives so they have tools with which to negotiate these extraordinary changes that are occurring in the lives of all of us. That's what the book is about, and the book suggests in a single sentence, when everything around you is changing, change everything. That is, change the way you view life, change your whole idea about life itself, about who you are, change your emotions, change your truth, change your thoughts, change your reality. And the book gives you specific tools with which to do that. So, in one sentence, when everything changes, change everything.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like an exciting new book, and I really like that it's going to be practical ways. I was reading Conversations with God, and it's a fabulous series of books, and at the same time, there's not a lot of practical use. I mean, there is, but at the
you're
same
exactly
time,
right.
Yeah.
It's largely conceptual in nature. You're profoundly right. Don't feel bad about saying it, because it's true. The first 9 Conversations with God books contains enormous wisdom, but it's largely conceptual in nature. My job was to take a look at those 9 books. I took about 2 months to do it, and to pull out the bits and pieces that were practical advice, that things you could apply in a 9-to-5 way as an actual tool. They're in there, but across 3,000 pages, hard to find. So I spent some time researching my own books, actually, pulled out some of those practical ideas and those practical pieces of advice and pulled them all into one book. That's what this book is about. So this book, I want to say, practicalizes the messages of Conversations with God.
Wonderful. So we're talking right now with Neale Donald Walsch here on Synchronicity. If you'd like to get on the air and ask him a question, the number to call is 604-822-2487. That's 604-UBC-CITR, or you can email spiritualshow@gmail.com. Now, Neale, as I was reading your books, on this show, I talk about my challenges with spirituality and my growth process and some of the feelings that come up. And I see a lot of people that say that they're channeling this being or they're talking with God. And, I have to confess I haven't had that kind of experience personally. And so I'm wondering, in your experience of conversations with God, how was it? Was it this booming voice in your head, or how did that experience come across?
It's a wonderful question. Marie, first of all, let me say this. The information that I received said to me very clearly, everyone is having a conversation with God all the time. Read that, everyone with a capital E. We're simply calling it something else. Perhaps we've emerged from a social system or a religious belief system that precludes us from calling it a conversation with God. So we call it, women's intuition, a moment of serendipity, an extraordinary coincidence, a stroke of genius, an incredible idea. But in fact, I'm told that the source of divine wisdom within all of us that runs through all of life is communicating with all of life all of the time, so that all of us are receiving these communications, and they show up, by the way, in many forms, not just a booming voice, which you might expect or wonder about, but in fact, the words on the billboard, when you turn the next corner and there's this billboard right staring you in the face, or the chance utterance of a friend down the street, or the lyrics of the next song you hear on the radio, or just the right article in the magazine at the hairstyling salon that you pick up while you're getting your hair done, and you say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this article is in here in this 5-month-old magazine. So that these serendipitous or so-called coincidental experiences that come to us in a variety of ways are in fact the many ways in which the larger part of what life is about, that I call God, the place of wisdom and clarity within all of us, is speaking to us and really, in a sense, almost leading us around by the nose if we'll just pay attention to the signs and to the symbols. Now, to answer your question specifically in my case, I receive information from the divine, from the source of wisdom within all of us, in the same way everyone else does, just as I've just described. In fact, in the chance utterance of a friend down the street, or the lyrics of the next song I hear on the radio, or the billboard as I turn the corner and go, I don't believe those 5 words are speaking right to me. I also have been able to actually receive inspiration as I am writing. But the first experience I had was an actual voice in the room. I actually heard a voice in the room with me, speaking to me directly, an exterior voice, a physical sound in the room. I know that's very, very hard to believe. It was 4:20 in the morning, and of course I want to say probably just my imagination. But you could put a gun to my head, and I would not disavow that I personally heard that voice speaking directly to me, so much so that it scared me. I turned around, of course, it was 4:20 in the morning, and I couldn't imagine who got into the house and who's talking to me. Only then did I realize, oh my gosh, I must be imagining this. But the voice continued to speak, and then, very quickly, I want to say, it moved inside of my head. That is, it became the sound of my own thoughts. What I have often referred to since then as a voiceless voice, very much like the sound of your own thoughts, except saying things to me that my thoughts would never say, would never dream up, have never dreamt up, saying things to me that I've never read before, seen before, understood before. So clearly, in the voice of my thoughts, but obviously coming from some higher place to which my thoughts have not previously been privy.